Hi everyone. Super excited that this class is almost done because this is going to be my last class ever until I have my master's, so I'm super excited. I chose my focus statement. It's super broad, but I think that it works. I said ELL learners need a variety of learning strategies implemented into their learning so they can grow to their greatest potential. And I believe that all students benefit from the strategies. And then throughout my presentation, I'm going to go through the strategies, assessment strategies, learning strategies, show the standards and whatnot. So I have a bunch of strategies on here that I learned throughout the course that help ELL learners learn. So I have teachers should model directions and instructions for activities so they know expectations and how to do it. So modeling is a huge thing. Languages should be consistent and not changing all the time. So when you're kind of giving directions to students, you shouldn't be always changing up the wording and the words that you use when giving directions because it's going to confuse ELL learners and they're not going to be able to take in all those words at once and understand them. Teach the class about the ELL students' culture or have them share. I go into that later when I talk about creating a classroom environment. Building fluency. So, sorry, I keep yawning. Practicing speaking, writing, reading as much as possible. And again, having flexible assessments for your ELL learners. Before a unit of study, provide students with a vocabulary that will be in the unit with definitions. You can even have that in their language if that's easy for you. Think, pair, share, having that peer collaboration and having them just speak with one person makes them feel better rather than talking in front of the whole class. Visuals, symbols, graphic organizers. Teach all the cultures in your classroom if you have a diverse classroom or not. If you can do a bunch of project-based things with culture. You can have them go home and write a journal. You can have them go home and take pictures and then tell you how important the object or whatever they took is and how it's important to him and her with their family. You can use things like sentence frames. You can try to increase parent involvement, kind of learn from the parents what kind of learner the ELL student is, and you can gather information from them, like their likes, dislikes, what upsets them, etc. Songs help ELL learners remember things. Phonics, that's definitely going to help. Again, peer collaboration. And they really like to see an agenda. So every single day, post what your plans are for the day. Label classroom objects in both languages. And I got some of these from the 120 content strategies, some of them from the other book, and some of them from the website I posted below. And again, we just had this block and assessment strategies, but I kind of wanted to bring it all together, kind of to reflect on everything I learned from this class. So allowing true or false questions for ELL students helps because they can better demonstrate their content knowledge when you create a parallel test for them. So, well, that speaks for itself. Using identification questions can be productive. Also, when assessing them, this helps ELL learners because a large amount of information can be tested while lowering the amount of reading. And I got that from chapter 11. Could be chapter 12 too. Giving completion questions to ELL learners also helps while assessing because it lowers the reading and language demand. Again, you're focusing on the content when assessing, not the language. Okay, because they're not there yet. Students can use graphics to express their knowledge instead of a written essay, so like T-lists, sequence pictures, labeled diagrams, maps, etc. There's a bunch you can pick from. So instead of like saying, oh, write this a paper on this, have them organize that information into a graphic organizer to show you what they know. And again, a quote that I took from page 171 of the 100 Strategies textbook, it's separating content knowledge from language used to express. It allows teachers more fairly to evaluate ELL's conceptual understandings, which I completely agree with. All right, so we've done learning strategies, assessment strategies. This is something that I found on a website because it's how different students, how they accommodate to the classroom. So the first one says ELLs may experience an initial period of excitement about their new surroundings. Next one is culture shock. ELLs may then experience anger, hostility, frustration, homesickness, or resentment towards the new culture, which this happens sometimes. Acceptance. ELLs may gradually accept their different surroundings. Assimilation and adaptations. ELLs may embrace and adapt to their surroundings and their new culture. And I found that on the website below. What I've seen while subbing and things, I've mostly seen ELLs gradually accept their different surroundings, or the one below that where they embrace and adapt to the new culture. That's what I've mostly seen in the school systems around here, because it's usually only like 2 diverse students in each classroom is what I mostly see, but every single year more diverse students are coming, and teachers need to be prepared for that. And something that I find extremely important when having ELL learners is having a classroom that's diverse, a cultural diverse classroom. And what I said was students need to feel safe in the classroom for learning to be at its greatest potential. I'm so sorry, I keep yawning. I'm not bored, I'm just tired today. Allow students to share their culture in their classroom, and there's so many ways you can do this. You can have parents of students come in and talk with the students. You can have just presentations. You can have video presentations. You can have them just every single day share something about themselves, and it can be anything. There's so many different ways you can learn about your students every day. So really, as a teachers, you should be doing your best to do that. Have culture projects in your classroom. Just said that. Get to know the families. The more you know the families, the more they're going to be able to help their students through learning and more want to participate in their students' learning if you are communicating with them. Addressing students with the name they prefer. So yeah, you might have a new ELL student in your classroom and their name could be a really long name you can't even pronounce. But if they want to be called that, you need to call them that. If they will have a really short name that they prefer, do that too. You need to find out what name they're comfortable with and express to the whole class what they'd like to be called. Do not pressure your students or push them out of their comfort zone. So if they're not ready to do something, don't make them do it. If you're doing a getting to know you activity or something and you have a student who feels like they are not ready to participate, don't make them. Allow them to watch, and then maybe the next time they'll be ready to participate. I think something else that's super important is having posters in your classroom that represent equality or difference or is a good thing or cultural diversity. Something in general, like even if it's just a picture. And another thing is to be patient but firm with cultural misunderstandings. So if you have a lot of diversity and a lot of cultures in your classroom, a lot of students are going to have misunderstandings of those cultures. Shut them down firmly and patiently and express to the class the correct understanding, I guess. And I got that from the English Only Teachers in Miss English classroom. And I on the left is ELL standards, and on the right are just regular ELA standards. And in looking at the two of these, they're not like the same standards, but what I get what I gather from this is that in my opinion, I think that ELL standards are more detailed, and if you look at them, it says more things like media presentations, oral interviews, charts, graphs, maps, diagrams, a lot of visuals. And like, let's see the last one. It says compare, contrast, categorize, and synthesize to gain a deeper understanding of information and objects. Formulate, ask, and respond. Oh, that's the second one. Okay. So then this one says compare and contrast two or more character settings. It's a whole different like standard. But in my opinion, they're mostly the same thing. But you really have to reach out to ELL learners and teach in a different way to make them better understand the content. And this is my works cited. Thank you so much for listening. This has been an amazing course. Like, I definitely feel prepared if I have an ELL student in my classroom this year. So that's what I can take from this. And thank you for listening.